It's about that time. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome commissioners, staff, petitioners, and citizens to the February 11th meeting. I can't believe it's February 11th already. It's crazy. Introduction of staff. To my right, we have Donna Burkhart, our administrative planner. Next to Donna, we have Shad Adams, our associate planner. To my left, we have Krista Hill, our senior planner. Next to Krista is Derek Spear, our city planner. In the front row, to my left, we have Ken Prince, our executive director. Next to Ken is David Bent, our legal counsel. Donna, would you please call the roll?
Chris Jamrose.
Here.
Drew Cash.
Here.
Woody Emmons.
Here.
Sam Cressy. Drew Johnson.
Here.
Randy Frost.
Here.
Kathy White Gaddage.
Here.
Mike Portalese.
Here.
Chris Torty.
Here, thank you. Rules of procedure are up on the board. To my right and left, we do all of our speaking at the podium. If you would please start with your name and address very clearly. That could be home or business, so Donna can take that into the record. Patience for those attending online. However, I don't think anybody is going to be online today. But first, we'll have a presentation by the petitioner. For each item, we will ask those participating in the room and online to speak. We'll have a spot for anybody who wants to speak in favor of the request. Then we'll have a section for anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the request. If you have general questions, that's a good time to come up. We'll accumulate all of our questions, and we'll have a right of rebuttal by the petitioner. We'll see if there's any additional information. Then we'll have a closing of the community discussion, or we'll have a closing of the public hearing, a commission discussion, then a commission vote. The previous month's minutes, January, were there any corrections or additions by the commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Thank you. Those are approved. Are there any conflict of interest on any agenda items tonight with the Plan Commission? Hearing none. All right, we're rolling right into the first one, which is Plat 25-01, a request submitted by the City of Mishawaka seeking approval of the 4-lot Mishawaka Building Trades minor subdivision.
Mr. President, members of the Commission, Ken Prince, Director of Planning and Community Development. Before you this evening, we're requesting to plat residual property that's left over from the Main Street widening project. As you are aware, the city acquired multiple single-family homes through this area. We demolished them as part of that project, and we have sat on the residual property waiting for the right development proposal. We believe we have that proposal with a partnership with the Mishawaka Building Trades. They're looking to build 4 homes on the property. These are traditional homes that will fit in well into the neighborhood. They have front porches. They're two facing Edgar, 2 facing Lowell. They're served by the alley that's behind it. There'll be a small extension of it, but it won't go all the way to Main Street. Earlier this evening, the Board of Zoning Appeals granted a series of developmental variances for the property that we believe not only make it fit better, but also match the existing neighborhood. So as you're aware, just looking at the aerial, the lots located to the east are of a smaller nature compared to what our current subdivision control ordinance requires. So with that, I would note that Dennis Murphy, who is the director of Mishawaka Building Trades, is here if you have any questions about the types of houses being constructed. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the plat itself.
Questions for our executive director or Mr. Murphy on this plat? Any questions? Nope. Nope. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of Plat 25-01? Hearing none, is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in opposition to Plat 25-01? Mr. Spear, is there any additional information on this?
No further information.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and if there's any commissioners that wish to speak, otherwise I will take a motion.
I make a motion to approve Plat 2501.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I think Drew, number 2, is the second, right?
Yep.
So, Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose.
Yes.
Drew Cash.
Yes.
Woody Emmons.
Yeah.
Drew Johnson,
Yes.
Randy Frost,
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage,
Yes.
Mike Portalese,
Yes.
Chris Torty.
Yes, and Plat 25-01 passes. Thank you for the presentation. Moving right along, replat 25-01, a request submitted by United Pet Food Producers USA LLC seeking approval of the one-lot United Pet Food Warehouse building.
Good evening, Chris Godlewski, Abbott Marsh, 315 West Jefferson, South Bend. I'm representing the client for this replat. A real straightforward project. Thanks for the positive staff report. This really just cleans up the 3 parcels, establishes easements, platted setbacks. Last month, there was a 12.5-foot setback off 11th, so that's will be represented on the plat. So unless you have any specific questions, it's really not much more than that. Any you have? I'm sorry?
Are they going to do any demolishing of that building that's sitting on that lot?
Yes, the site plan's the next petition, and I could speak in a little more detail on that one. But yes,
In front of the
they
microphone
are.
there. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Any other questions? No other questions? All right. Thank you for the presentation. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of replat 25-01? Is there anybody in the room or online wishing to speak in opposition to replat 25-01? Is there any additional information?
None.
And I'll close the public hearing, and if there's no other questions or comments, I will ask for a motion.
I'll offer motion to approve replat 2501.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Second was Randy. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose,
Yes.
Drew Cash,
Yes.
Woody Emmons,
Yes.
Drew Johnson,
Yes.
Randy Frost,
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage,
Yes.
Mike Portalese,
Yes.
Chris Torty.
Yes, and replat 25-01 passes. Moving right along to site plan SP 25-01, there'll be no public hearing for a site plan. A request submitted by United Pet Food Producers USA LLC seeking final site plan approval for a 69,000 square foot warehouse facility located at 919 Cleveland Street.
Chris Godlewski, Abbott Marsh Consultants, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard, South Bend. As well, I represent the same petitioner, United Pet Food. This is the site plan review, which has more of the details for the 69,000 square foot warehouse, significantly larger than what's there, much older building. This will be brand new. So the staff report was positive, thank you. There are some engineering comments that will have no issues taken care of to complete the full site plan review there. We handled interior circulation, storage of the trucks, stormwater, utilities. Those are some of the main components that we did civil review of this. And again, if I didn't mention it, yes, it's being torn down completely and replaced with a new building. Probably a lot of details. I can answer any specific questions you have.
Mr. Emmons?
Thank you. The one that's going to tear down is directly across from their facility, correct?
They own on both sides of the road, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
But
On the
it's that
south
main
and the north.
building just kind of going to the west off of Cleveland.
The
Showed
west
up-
off Cleveland, yes, correct.
That's the one that's coming down.
Cleveland and 11th.
Yeah, that's-
Northwest corner, yep.
Right, that's the one that's coming down.
Correct.
Then the purchase of the one that's on Logan Street. What are they going to do with that building? And that's going to be just remodeled?
I'm not sure. I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Okay.
I think this, and correct me, you're going to know more than I am, I'm familiar with your paperwork. This is the one that we had a legal description that needed to be corrected. I think you guys are in the process of correcting that?
Yes.
Okay, that is, so you are correcting that,
Correct.
okay. Yeah, then that answers mine.
Any other questions for Mr. Gadlowski? Nope. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any members that wish to speak on this? If not, I will take a motion on on site plan 25-01.
I motion to approve site plan 25-01.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Woody was the second. Donna, would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose? Yes. Drew Cash?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
Yes.
Drew Johnson?
Yes.
Randy Frost?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage?
Yes.
Mike Portalese?
Yes.
Chris Torty?
Yes, and site plan 25-01 passes. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. You're not staying for the rest? I'm kidding. Moving right along, design review, DR 24-11. There's been a request to table this to the March 11th meeting. All those in favor of tabling this request to March 11th, 24-11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And DR number 24-11, that design review has been tabled to March 11th. Moving right along, design review 25-01. A request submitted by Front Street Opportunity Fund LLC requesting a design review waiver for size, number, and length for time for 2 temporary banners at the Avalon located at 365 West Front Street. Hi.
Good evening. JP Wilgus, Front Street Opportunity Fund, LLC, 1130 South Bend Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, Suite 350. Here for a temporary banners located at the Avalon, kitty corner to us now. We were here approximate 6 months ago for the initial approval. Here seeking the second part of that, which is the additional 6 months extension on that initial approval. We are currently over 60% leased, and we would like to have this extension to keep our positive momentum going on the leasing front. Thank you for your consideration, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Wilkus?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Woody.
you. I noticed the banners, they're up, there's 2 of them up on
Yes,
each
sir.
side of the building. And that, the last time you was here, you only had 2 people that were into the building.
At that time, yes, sir.
Right. And do you say on the signage, you think that is what enabled you to have people sign up? Or was it other types of marketing that you do?
We have additional types of marketing as well, but the banners on the building are a vital portion of our marketing plan.
Can you say just basically what percentage of those banners have helped you?
I don't have those figures in front of me.
Those would be nice to know for future.
Understood.
And you say that after 6 months, are you going to take them down prior, or are you going to keep them up for a total 6 months?
I'd love once I believe our initial agreement was 95% lease that they would come down. I'd love that to happen in the next couple months, so we don't need that 6 months full of runway, but I'm asking for that runway just in case.
Thank you.
I think that I remember something in that spirit of that conversation too. It was like 95%. I think you guys are great partners, and I think you're great for the city, in my opinion. That's just mine, but I think that we have to demonstrate to our developers. But I just want to confirm, these are the same banners that are up on the building right now. They're
That
not
is correct.
additional. This is just part of that extension, because I don't know if the honorable councilman to my left is rubbing off on me, but I'm becoming less of a fan of temporary banners. So but yeah, you guys are great partners. So
Thank you very much.
So I had a question too. I went back on the last meeting, and my understanding there was 108 units, is that correct?
108 units, 3 commercial.
So you're about 60% full, and that goes back to what, June, right?
61, 62%?
So
Yeah.
you're getting there.
Correct.
Second question, what about the 3 retail spaces there? I know there's 2 small ones and then a larger one, like for maybe a restaurant, but
Yep.
any interest there, any strong interest in those?
Yes, so we do have an LOI on one of these smaller spaces on the end caps. We are currently working with 2 restaurant operators for the middle space. Once we get added into the door, I'm hoping that significantly helps that larger space. But we have been getting quite a bit of interest on those.
I have a question. So
Yes, sir.
I remember this when this came through the first time, and I was actually the one that suggested the 6-month rather than the year. And my gut feel is that having them up for a year is too long. That's kind of my gut feel on this. Now leasing sign up there, I thought 6 months was good. If we do it another 6 months, it's going to go into spring. You're already near 60%. Would you consider 3 months? Then we're not, splashing a still now leasing sign up
Yep.
as we get into the springtime and as that area really picks up and those types of things.
Momentum is strong right now, and I feel this would definitely help us achieve that 95% goal where we can take it down. We have had some hurdles with respect to timing during this leasing period. An election year stops it significantly. Same for the holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and now it's severe winter warnings that nobody wants to move in. So that's really slowing down, and I really would hate to lose our current positive momentum going forward by saying 3 months, and we don't have that extra little bit of time.
Okay, but you don't intend to be asking for another extension?
Correct. Yes, I do not.
Because I would vote no on
Understood.
another extension. That's
Understood.
for sure.
I don't want them up there any more than you
Those now
guys
leasing
do.
signs are supposed to be temporary, and they got a temporary feel to them when I look at them, and that being up an entire year is problematic for me, voting-wise. And have those signs had any signs of wear or tear or anything?
I actually just drove by twice and looked at them just to make sure, because I had a feeling that question was going to come, and I did not see any.
Okay, and if there is things that need to be repaired or need to be replaced, do you intend to do that for the duration of? you can
Absolutely.
Keep that up there? So
Absolutely. It's not a
there
good
won't
look
be
for the
any
building.
tattered, torn, or any faded or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not a good look for the building to have a temporary sign that's blowing in the wind on a
Right. Well, I
beautiful,
don't-
brand-new building.
yeah, and I'm not a big fan of that look either, but.
I know it
agree.
takes your time, and I'm very sensitive to people's time. But I think that, and so I don't want you to have to come back before us, and we want you to succeed and
For
doing
sure.
it. I like the partnership, as I said earlier, but it's something that I think we've had a fair partnership in this, and I think if we have a compelling reason, if we had a terrible winter, or if we get into it, but I'm sensitive to all of the money that Mishawaka is putting into the waterfront, is putting into the park, I think the people of Mishawaka have just been desperate to enjoy that space in the beauty that it is. And so I'm wondering too if there's something less than the 6 months too. And I just wanted to pose it before we go into discussion to do that, because I don't know what it is, but if there was a compelling reason, I feel, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but I feel we're really open to it with, great partners if there's circumstances. But, yeah, I don't know. I think the same thing.
I'm gonna speak on the other side. What do you think that would be the negative? What would it be hurting? Because I go down to that Riverwalk area. I was just there ice skating Friday. I don't even pay attention to it. I mean, it's not going to stop me from going down there, walking the Riverwalk, going to the restaurants. I don't know why it would bother people. That just an everyday person going to the Riverwalk for restaurants or whatever they're going for in the summer to listen to music, I don't think that's going to stop them from going, and I don't know why it would bother people. If it was, torn and didn't look, maybe it's not the most professional, but they are entering the season where that sign could be very important because there's going to be more people around the Riverwalk. So I don't see why it hurts to leave it for another 6 months. That's just my opinion.
And question, beyond the signage, what other avenues are you using to attract tenants to your building?
So we have social media on all the big platforms. I don't think we have Twitter, but Facebook, Instagram. We're looking at a marketing firm to help push out additional online and social media presence. We're on Google. Our property management software links to all the big real estate sites, such as the Zillows, the Trulias, the rent.com, apartments.com. We're just looking for that last avenue to really push us to the finish line.
Because my thinking is, I mean, I echo what I've heard. I mean, it's a great addition to a place that was
Thank
a
you.
blight years ago, and I'm very happy for it. My concern is setting a precedent. A year is a significantly long time for a banner. And I know that when, my daughter moved into space, the method of looking for that space was not driving around looking for a sign. It was 100% online. So my gut feel is, as nice as the sign looks, I really don't support an extension because I don't think that's your primary, the building looks great. I think it would look better without it. So I really think it's not your best method of attracting people. It's just my feel.
Also, looking at that sign, I drive by it probably 3 or 4 times a day to and from here. And you look at that and it looks like it's on a warehouse, the type of sign that would be on a warehouse. And like I say, up for almost a year, to me, is not feasible. You have a beautiful building and you're distracting from having a large rental sign or leasing sign up on it. And, to me, you need to find a way of marketing it other than just a big leasing sign, 2 leasing signs attached to the building for a year. Now, if it was a warehouse, that's a little bit different. But when you have a building like that downtown with millions of dollars and you plaster a sign like that on it, on 2 sides of the building, I'm not for it. We've given you 3 months or 6 months, and I can't see giving it again another 6 months. I think you need another avenue of marketing, and if you have a product that people want, you shouldn't have any trouble leasing it by going a different avenue than having a big sign up there, 2 signs like that plastered on the side of your building. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. President, members of the commission, Ken Prince, Director of Planning and Community Development. I'm not here to speak in favor. I think I'm as sensitive to banners as many of you are. But I will say that when they submitted this originally, they had a year for the ramp up for the leasing. It's different when you're doing a 10-unit building or 20-unit building, but we're talking about 108 units here. I know the mill, when they came in, it was over a year lease-up period that they were expecting on that project. When the mill phase 2 comes online, which should be coming later this year, they will have a similar request for a banner. And we did a banner for mill phase 1 originally. And there's nothing, we're not establishing a precedent in terms of, Mr. Portalease, we have done it previously. I think being sensitive to the amount of time that it comes up and where they are at in the process, that 95% made perfect sense to me. The other thing I'll note is with the type of units here, one of the target audience that they're shooting for are recent college grads. And I would hope as of May, June, that they will be, that will be the prime time that they will have to finish up the leasing of this property. So if you were looking for a time or an extension or limiting it, to me, the end of June, I know it's 5 months or whatever, would be a time that would be rational relative to where they're at in the process, 95%, or the end of June, because then it gives them the ability to hit that target audience. And the one thing I love to see when that banner first went up was just the excitement of people wanting to go through the building, get into it. We still have people that, oh, I didn't know you had an ice rink down there. They just don't get around, and this sign does, in terms of selling the downtown, does help accomplish that. We don't want it up long-term for an aesthetic purpose, but if you were to build this apartment building up north, you could have that same banner up for years, and there wouldn't be an ordinance that would require them to come before you or to take it down. So we don't want the downtown to be at a competitive disadvantage, but at the same time, we don't want it up too long. So I'll rely on your judgment on what that appropriate time is. But I just wanted to add those details to your discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Speaking to precedents,
Yeah.
can you recall to memory when we've allowed banners to be up for a year? In the
I
city?
believe on the Mill Phase 1, I believe they had a banner that was up at least that long. So,
But that was the first downtown though, too. But yeah, you're right. I do
right.
remember them having a long time on the bill.
So the date that you gave, Mr. Prince, of June, and why that made sense is why?
because of the recent college graduates, they end up graduating in May, hopefully finding jobs. Anybody locating into this area, I mean, I'm talking about from the region, would be looking for housing at that point of time, and the banner helps in the marketing efforts. And that is truly a target audience for this building because of the smaller units, the adjustable furniture. To me, that makes sense to have
A deadline at the end of June?
a deadline at the end
per
of
se?
June to give them the ability to target that audience.
Okay, I think that's reasonable for me, from
But
my
can we
perspective.
modify this? Are we allowed to modify their petition?
We can, yeah.
Okay.
We can.
Yeah, we did last time when we cut
Yeah,
it in half.
we
yeah.
modified it
All
from a
right.
year. So in my mind,
Other petitions, you're not. This one, you are, just
Yeah,
to
all
make
right.
that clarity.
so
I'm learning.
Yep.
in my mind, that makes sense. I think that's meeting more than halfway. I was prepared to vote no for this, but if we were to say, hey, end of June is the deadline, that way they can target that market with that. I think that makes sense. From my perspective, we have rules in place for a reason, right? We have, this is the size, the number, the length, the material, everything. A temporary banner for a year just seemed long, and that's
So
why.
why did we let the mill have theirs up for a longer period? Did they have to come
So having
before
written
us?
the temporary banner provision, why we have that banner provision in there is we had a restaurant, Doc Pierce's, for example, had their holiday special that they put on a banner in the building. We wanted to give them some ability to display, and that's why we have those banner provisions downtown. We never drafted it with the intent of that's what is needed here for the now leasing component. So in terms of temporary real estate sign, you're allowed a 4x8 by right that you can put on the property for the commercial leasing of but it's really not your downtown, right? You're not being located on Lincoln Way, you're not being located on Main Street, you're not catching that traffic associated with that signage. These signs, these banners give you the ability that other signs that are permitted by right don't give you the ability to do. So again, I don't want them there permanently, long-term. I don't think that's the intent, but just in terms of wanting the development, we want this developer is, and I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but they are part of the team that is going to be doing the 100 Center, and they need that for the 100 Center is going to have a similar request, and the banner is likely going to be facing the Riverwalk because it will have no visibility being located behind the smokestack for the next building that is similar to this. So we want to encourage that development, we encourage that redevelopment, and there is a fine line between too long and the right amount. And again, I rely on your judgment to determine what that is. But I also know that there is a need for it for a period of time. And again, what that is, it will be up to you.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with having this go till, they have to be down by July 1st.
Well, that's, well,
It's only 10 days.
27th, that's, okay, yeah, you're right. All right.
We're only changing things 10 days.
No, it'd be August.
No, well, he said June 30th, and on here it says July 10th.
Oh,
June
it says July 10th.
Yep.
Oh,
And then on July 10th, 2025.
is when it expires? I
Yep.
thought it was March.
I thought it was March, too.
The approval is from starting on January 10th, 25, and
10th.
ending on July 10th, 25. Second page, top paragraph, under recommendation.
Why did I think March?
That's what I thought, too, so that's odd.
No, it's another 6 months.
So the
Krista,
date,
can you clarify that?
The original one,
Yeah, it expired
the original one expired in January.
January 10th.
oh,
They submitted. their-
So that's the difference, is the original expired in January. Thank you.
Right, and we allowed them to keep them up while they,
We're doing the
well, we got to
appeal.
this point.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Prince, before you step down.
Yeah.
You said you were part of the group, or largely wrote the current banner policy, and you have 120 days. What led you to 120 days as a general rule, and then are willing to extend that out for 365? I'm just curious, why
In
Why the big
general,
difference?
the banners were meant for a temporary provision, and the reason we limited it to 120 days is what we found was when a business is advertising, it was typically seasonal, and
Okay.
we didn't want them just to leave it up. But in this case, the targeted amount is just longer because that's the lease-up time. So in these cases, I think it is appropriate. If they were selling widgets or a restaurant goes in there and they wanted a banner for the restaurant, that would
Okay.
be much more appropriate for that opening to have 120 days because that is the grand opening. You don't have a grand opening for a year,
Sure.
for example. But in this case, the lease-up period is significantly longer than what that event would be.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
What are our thoughts here?
Are we moving to discussion?
Pardon me?
Are we moving to discussion?
No, is there any other questions that we have for these two?
Discuss.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll work something out here. Is there anybody else in the room or online wishing to speak in favor of Design Review 25-01? Hearing none, is there anybody online or in the room wishing to speak against Design Review 25-01? Nope. Is there any additional information?
No additional information.
I'll close the public hearing and let's open it up for commission discussion.
I feel if we let the mill do that for a year, then you got to be fair and let them do it also. And I also feel that you don't want the city to be getting a bad reputation for them to say, well, they let the mill do it, hey, we don't want to build any more apartment buildings here because the city's difficult to work with. I actually just had a client who rehabs houses, and it's the first one she's done in Mishawaka, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but she said, I'll never do, and she does a beautiful job, but she said, I'll never rehab another house in Mishawaka because the city is a pain to work with. And I was like, oh, shoot. But you don't want the city to get that type of a reputation for a big project like that, and I don't think it's going to bother anybody. So that's my opinion.
I would prefer to have all the signs down before 4th of July and everything that happens down there. I would vote for this if this was expired on, we changed this to say it expires on June 20th.
I love that your point, and I think it's a good one, Kathy. I think it's a really good point. And I love the openness that I feel everyone here brings to it. We look at every issue on face. And I respect it. It bothers me all the times that I'm the reaction that I sense when, down there is this joy of this new space down there. And that's the reason I wouldn't want, that's the reason I was come out against it, is if we do it for one, we're going to start getting into this precedence of doing it. But we're told it's not, we're not tied into that because temporary signage, I'm of the opinion as well, and it's just an opinion that on marketing and doing it is where the drivers are on all of this. But I would agree. I think there's an extension. The city has voiced that there's reason for an extension, but I kind of like that June 20th as well. Get it cleaned up before the 4th of July.
I'll go along with the president's motion of June 30th,
June 20th? June 20th.
June 20th.
That way it gives some time to take them down. What do we think about?
What
that?
about Memorial Day? I mean, where are we going to draw the line in the sand?
Well,
Well,
he said
this-
the college graduates.
this-
He said
this-
the college
this allows
graduates
us
coming
to-
out.
But a college graduate's not going to drive around looking for a sign.
Agreed.
Agree, but this is just an area that,
I'm not trying to talk against it. I'm really not. But I do feel that, a sign for a year. Can I ask him a question? I know it's professor. How quick did you ramp up? I mean, you guys put the sign up, and how quick did your occupancy start going?
Pretty significant. One of our big hurdles when the building was first built was, what is it? Like, what is the Avalon?
Yeah, and I'm curious too.
And
Yeah,
I'm happy to show it to you.
thank you.
See, I feel that that's going to be one of their best noticeability timeframes is Memorial Day, 4th of July, the concerts in the park. And is anybody going to say, I'm not going to go down to, the Riverwalk, or I'm not going to watch the music because there's a now leasing sign up there. And that bothers me. I mean, I've been with many people and nobody really, I don't see why it bothers anybody.
How many people would you say, like, an example would be, I have a friend that's graduated from college, and I know this, and I live in Mishawaka. I'm not looking for a place to live. I have a place to live. But I see the sign, so it keeps it in my mind, and then I hear that someone's looking for a place. So it creates top-of-mind awareness for me to then say, well, I saw there was a leasing sign for a nice apartment place downtown Mishawaka, you might want to look into it.
Yeah.
I personally support the sign for a year. I think that the apartment of the world, this is just one time.
Correct.
You're not coming back next year, the year after, 5 years down the road.
I'll see you guys for the 100.
We're doing it one time, and we're trying to get these things running out at 95%. And sometimes us sitting right here, someone on this board up here is going to know someone looking for an apartment. Odds are. And if that sign's not there, I don't know that it's available or not available. I'm not even going to probably even think about it. So I think it's a good tool to help us citizens, help you by having it there for the time period of 1 year.
Thank you very much.
And
I
if the motion comes up that it is June 20th and it's 18 days before you want it, that shouldn't be that big of a deal, right?
I'm not going to quibble over that. I'm hoping we only need this for a couple months, but I don't want to limit my marketing efforts while we have momentum going.
It'd be nice if you come back in 2 months and go, hey, guys, up 95%.
I'll take the open floor and make sure I do that.
But there was a reason why a year was on it last time around, and we moved it to 6 months.
Correct.
We didn't
And
just,
so we did have a third-party professional market study done by a company called Tracy Cross, and they said our marketing efforts to get to that 95% mark, which is pretty standard for apartments, was going to take 18 to 24 months. We are significantly above that. And I don't want to jeopardize people driving by or looking at it and be like, oh, that's just it's a warehouse, or what is that, when it's clear there. And I feel we did a very nice job designing the sign to make it less gaudy or stand out, and have it kind of blend in with the building a little bit cleaner, and stick with the building's branding throughout.
Well, you only have 3 units that are 3 bedrooms, and the rest are 1 bedroom and then smaller studios. I would think that would be, something that would attract a college student or a single person.
We have 3 units that are 2 bedrooms, 0 3 bedrooms, 0 1 bedrooms, actually. 76 of the units are the expandable, adaptable furniture. We are Indiana's largest and only expandable community throughout the entire state. The company who puts this on actually reaches out to us all the time how we can do more buildings at this size. So it's in larger markets where it's a lot more walkable or bikeable. They tend to fill up a little bit easier, I would say. Here, where you still are dependent on a vehicle, it takes a little bit longer.
Well, I mean, it's just, for me personally, it's just common sense. If you filled 60% of the building in 6 months, and if the sign helped fill that 60%, why not leave it up another 6 months and, you're at 90 or 100? For me, that's just common sense. Leave it up. So it's a nice
I would love to
order
leave it up, as long as I'm able to per the statute. I don't want to. I agree with you all that,
right.
temporary signs shouldn't be up for years and years and years, but
But it's just a year. I mean, I don't see that being, like Kathy was saying, I don't see how someone walking the Riverwalk sees a sign in the building and it's a detriment to their, the aesthetics. That's
Agreed.
just, to me, that's nothing to me personally, too.
thank you.
If it came before us for a sign for a much smaller unit someplace, didn't make as much of an economic impact to the city, and somebody wanted to hang a sign on the front of it of the same quality, are we going to approve extending the 120 days, something that's in the residential neighborhood, but it's approved and zoned? I guess I don't want to make that appearance of
Well,
supporting
it's
big
going to
projects.
be somewhat size limit. I mean, that's proportional to the building.
It is, but are we
So
still
you're
going to
gonna
allow a
have
temporary sign that says, apartments for rent, and allow it to stay up there? I mean, I fully support what you're doing, and I love what you're doing, and
I
I'm
do
very
too.
happy with it. But
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to decide where, are we being swayed by where it's at? And, or do we really need to take a look at the broader picture of thinking, okay,
Well, I do think a lot of it is where it's at, personally speaking. Downtown Mishawaka has come a long ways, and we're right there at the finish line, and we're like clipping the legs out, in a sense. I'm not saying we are, but I think there is a lot about where it's at. It's also the monies that went into this thing. It wasn't a shack. And you know, I think it's supporting it in multiple ways in that front, and I mean, that's my point. Sorry.
it is, but a new housing development, you know, and then they want to put a sign at their entrance for a year.
That's not an apartment.
It's not, but they're still renting or leasing.
I think there's different rules for that, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what Ken brought that up earlier.
Like I said,
So
I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I want to take a broader look at this whole thing.
I agree.
And not look at just this building, but what we're going to do moving forward for the entire city if something else comes up.
and that very well could be something.
We don't have to do that in this. I mean, one of the things that I love is how it comes before us on each one of these. But I think we're all talking out loud too, that it's the precedent, but it's the Riverwalk. It's the location that makes this one so unique in my mind.
Oh, absolutely.
We could have these signs up for 3 years as they build.
Oh, yeah,
down
no
there.
negative
Mill
on that.
Coming up, and then if they build another Albion across the way,
Yeah, that
you could have
wouldn't
these
spoil.
signs up for 3
Overlapping.
years.
Overlapping.
Huh?
Yeah, overlapping.
Yeah.
Mr. Prince.
I just want to clarify that the only banner provision that we have is in the C3, the downtown. All other areas of the city, like it used to bug me, the old Kmart had a 10-foot deep banner that covered the side of the building that looked like garbage. And that's part of the reason why the downtown was different, and we wrote those provisions in. But each proposal before you, Mr. Portalees, is reviewed on its merits and individually. So I'll use the Mill Phase 2. They'll be coming before you. Instead of 108 units, they have 232 units that they have to ramp up. It's a longer ramp-up time, and I would expect that they would be asking for more time because it's a longer ramp-up time.
When is that coming before us?
I would imagine in the next few months, but
Okay,
that's,
I'm
that's
just
their,
curious how
that's
many
their
signs we're gonna
obligation to
have.
submit
Yeah.
and to have it approved.
Yeah.
The other thing is with the Mill Phase 2 is they don't have that visibility of where it's located, right? Their only visibility is going to be the Riverwalk and on Front Street. Because as development happens, and I use the 100 Center as an example, there is no good view to that building. They have to rely on other marketing in order to get that word out. So the banner will be less of a critical element. The nice thing about the Avalon is you still have the vacant lot in front of it, so it's visible from a lot of angles in that location. So I think it's truly a help here. I'm questioning how much of a help it's going to be on the other projects because, again, you don't have that visibility.
And I don't want to think that I don't support this. I really don't, because I love what's happening down there. The sign doesn't bother me. I'm down there a lot, grandkids. To be honest with you, it's become part of the landscape. I don't even really notice it anymore, to be honest with you.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that we're all considering the bigger picture.
Just understand that each one is reviewed on its own merits and has different characteristics associated with it. So all valid questions, but you're not establishing an undue precedent for this building versus the next building because you'll review each one on its own merits.
Fair enough. Thank you. Appreciate that
course.
clarification.
Yeah, it is helpful.
Thank you all. Is there any other discussion?
I would just like to add that I do appreciate all the efforts that went on to get that beautiful building there.
Thank you very much.
There was there
Absolutely.
was a ton of cooperation dealing with the right-of-way improvements at the same time as the building. These folks have been great stewards with Mishawaka. I feel that by limiting their time, we are cutting off their ability to succeed. So I really want you to succeed. I think it's very important to do it's their business. They're telling us they need this. We've done it in the past. I would say I'm all for the full-time. But if you feel it's important enough to get it cleaned up for the 4th of July celebration, I get that. But his target audience, they're just graduating, they are looking for homes in June, July, even August. So I'm voting for it. I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you very much.
I totally agree.
Thank you.
Well, you all can change each other's minds, and I love these open discussions because it's flowing either way. I'm perplexed on it.
Are you willing to make a motion?
I can't make a motion. You guys make the motions.
Okay.
I motion to approve design review 25-01 as written.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Second was Randy.
Can clarification, this takes us through July
10th.
10th? Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call for the vote?
Chris Jamrose?
Yes.
Drew Cash?
Yes.
Woody Emmons?
No.
Drew Johnson?
Yes.
Randy Frost?
Yes.
Kathy White Gaddage?
Yes.
Mike Portalese?
Yes.
Chris Torty?
No. And that passes 5-2.
6-2.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is there any old business?
Presenting at 6-2.
6-2.
No old business.
Any new business?
None.
Privilege of the floor. Anybody have anything to speak on that's not on the agenda item? No? I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.